I spent 6.5 years at NASA. They were in the room. They're probably responsible for a third of all questions. I never learned anything from them. Useless. I mean, literally, it's not important, but it's there because of that. You know, and of course, if you say it's like we throw out the safety people.
Yeah.
Like
it sounds insane to say.
Yeah, but of course it sounds insane, but that's how bureaucracy grows.
Dr. Z, thank you for joining. This is the second podcast of In Pursuit, where we're exploring how to get stuff done in government. And I honestly can't think of a better person than you, and I'm just honored and thrilled that you would be here. So thank you for joining.
Glad to be here. It's a problem I've thought about a lot.
I know that. So for folks who may not know your background, and I know you've done like the Harvard Business Review podcast on leadership, and you've done the Knowledge Project one with Shane Parrish, and those were great. They went deep into your background. But for folks who might not know it, could you just give us like a quick overview of your life growing up in Switzerland, getting your PhD, coming to the U.S.?
I'm a product of public education. First in my family to graduate, kind of in a farm community. I grew up with a very religious kind of upbringing and basically went to school. I studied physics, did a PhD in astrophysics where I learned how to build satellite instruments. So the first satellite instrument was my master's project, the part that's still flying, a million miles away from the Earth.
Wow.
And kind of it's there. I moved to the US as a postdoc to the University of Michigan and basically built a research group here that built satellite and operated satellite instruments, working with NASA primarily, but also National Science Foundation and NRL and, agencies like that. And then built kind of the entrepreneurship programs here.
From the ground up.
From the ground up, the Center for Entrepreneurship. And later, in 2016, I joined NASA as the head of science. That's roughly a third of the agency, so $8 billion.
$8 billion budget.
Every year, of course, it's different. So I started at 5.6 and I stopped at 7.8 billion per year.
Yeah.
The vast majority of that is being, sent to others. Roughly 20% or so stays within the agency. It supports the centers and so forth, but the rest goes out. And then what I did in end of 22, I quit and I basically started a life of many jobs. One part is, for the first time ever since my PhD, I'm working part-time in Switzerland, helping them build some things, seeing procurement stare in a European way, which kind of side note.
I'm curious, I'll come back to that.
It's actually worse than the US. But
is it?
Oh yeah, hell. Huh. And then the other things are on boards and for both entrepreneurial and other companies. That's what I'm doing.
That's great. So we'll come back to, I'm really curious to hear about the other view of procurement. And so I think, were my facts right? You said roughly $8 billion in spend, and it was what, 10,000 folks, employees?
Within the agency. But of course, what we did is the vast majority of the money went to people that we didn't count the employees.
Right.
The University of Michigan got a contract to build instruments. So did Berkeley and Southwest Research Institute and others, right? Companies such as Firefly and all these SpaceX. Right. But yes, on the research side, something like 10,000 or so within the agency.
That's incredible. So you had been working with NASA for a while, but you show up there in 2016, day one, and you start taking stock of everything that was going on. What did you find? And was there anything that was surprising to you?
Yeah. So I walked in the door with like three skill sets. The first one is the one of a practical builder of space instruments working with NASA. What I had known is that I felt we'd spend a lot of time focused on things that were not important. Like
you were expecting that.
I noticed that, right? So frankly, for each pound of instruments that I build, I somehow built 3 pounds of paperwork, right? Kind of that was next to it. And frankly, there's some of it that's really important. if you don't know what the requirements are
Right.
of an engineering system, you're not an engineer. And you need
sure.
to show what a test plan is.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of papers, frankly, the way I did it, I just hired undergrads and said, do you want to be part of a NASA project? Seize all the important information. This is a piece of paperwork they want.
Yeah.
We need to write one. Why don't you write one? I never read it. Just submitted it to NASA. And nobody ever said it's wrong, which tells you it's not important.
Right.
So anyway, so I had that experience. The second experience I had is running leadership organizations.
Okay.
Here, Center for Entrepreneurship, but also in companies and otherwise. And then the third one is the innovation and entrepreneur leadership, right?
Yeah.
So what I found, so I walked in the door and what I noticed, so at the team meetings, the way you should imagine kind of any big decision is a big table, a person sits at the top, in this case it was me, but then each one of the other people represents some part, often a risk. A political risk, engineering risk, a safety risk, right? So kind of the people around.
Yeah.
And at the end, you do a poll, should we do option A or B? It's A, B, B, B.
They say it out loud.
Yeah, we talk about it, right? And at the end, if I'm at the top of the debate, I make the decision. It's not democratic.
Yeah.
I listen to the arguments, make the decision. Of course, only fools do selfish things, right? You kind of listen to all the input. But you find, so what I found in that process is no discussion. It was really hard. I mean, frankly, heartbreaking. I noticed there are only 3 or 4 people speaking in these rooms. And most judgments were snap judgments.
Yeah.
I knew that problem. That's a groupthink problem.
Totally.
So it basically shows that you're actually not going deep, especially during a time where things were changing around NASA with commercial players emerging, with news. We were actually not talking. So what we were doing is always falling back on experience. The other thing about culture that is important is you need to listen to the stories people tell each other.
Yeah.
And if all stories are past stories of glory, that tends to be an inhibitor of learning.
Yeah.
So there's no story from yesterday. That it's stories from, I don't remember, they're no longer alive.
Yeah, lore.
And of course, stories are important, but kind of culture stories should also, what you want are the stories are aligned with your leadership, with your culture that you're a culture, for example, if you want different and new partnerships, the story should align with that, and there's no stories, right? So
and it would seem like in that environment, it's a super high stakes environment where there's a lot of engineering challenges, and so you want disagreement.
Yeah, exactly right. So we did not have rigorous discussions. We did not tell ourselves stories. What I did notice, though, that they're really good people.
Yeah.
So kind of a full, very dedicated people. Yeah. Kind of the image that many people are talking about, that you see in the news,
For sure.
I just disagree with.
Yeah.
The problems in government we're going to talk about, it's not because the people are idiots or selfish.
Totally.
There's 5% of them, and I wish I could fire them and I couldn't.
Yeah.
But the vast majority are conscientious, good people in processes and systems where the culture is mismatched. That's
with incentives that are very different.
Yeah, exactly right. So kind of, so the incentive, for example, being if you screw up on something, it's massively worse than not doing the right thing.
Right.
Or a new thing, right? So it's kind of the incentives is
the incentive is to stick with the status quo.
Exactly, because all the legal people nod in the room. You do something new.
Can you unpack that? I often hear that, but maybe just inspect the thoughts of someone working in government, and what are the things that they hear inside their head? Don't do something new because.
Well, look, I mean, I think so. You're in a proud organization like NASA, right? For me, at the story I just told you about the documents, I walked in the door and said, you should know I think that way.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these documents are useless. So great engineers should know which are the important documents and which are the stupid documents and kill the stupid documents.
Right.
I could not do it.
You couldn't kill him.
I could not kill it because there's always, when you want to kill that document, somebody says, we have 50 years of experience that says the document is important. It's have you ever actually looked at it?
Yeah.
It's idiotic.
Is that, and this is probably something you can't generalize, but Is there like a common thread of the source of those documents? Like, for instance, is it coming from legal as opposed to from an engineering group?
So it's a whole group. So some of them are legal documents, like they're the FAR.
Sure.
Like you have to make sure that procurement is with the FAR. The exceptions to have to the FAR are documented. And frankly, usually if you stay within the framework, that is not the biggest issue. But what happens if you have a problem in the past? Somebody did this with an exception, then the government got sued.
Totally.
So now comes another document.
Yep, that gets another rule, another document, or a whole set of them.
What's worse, though, many of the documents are there because of a leadership problem.
Okay, say more.
So somebody, when the shuttle accidents happen, I would argue, especially the first one with the valves, the Challenger, right? That was a bad leader. It was a bad leader who did not listen to their people. The people said, this valve will not work at this temperature. We should not launch today. Yeah. It's like, politically, look, we need to launch. It's like, okay, what you should do is fire the leader.
Yeah.
What we did instead is basically said, we need to create a system in which engineering and safety independently report to the leader on top of the decision maker to make sure that information comes in. Okay. So I have in engineering, in every project, I don't have humans, like in the robotic programs. It's a satellite that looks at the Earth or at Mars or whatever.
Right.
I don't have humans. Okay. Because of that Challenger thing, I have in the room a whole safety organization. Okay, I want to tell you one thing. I spent 6.5 years at NASA. They were in the room. They were responsible for 1/3 of all questions. I never learned anything from them. Useless. I mean, literally, it's not important, but it's there because of that. And of course, if you say it's like we throw out the safety people.
Yeah.
Like
it sounds insane to say.
Yeah, but of course it sounds insane, but that's how bureaucracy grows. It's not. It's not because, of course, we want to be safe.
Right.
The whole point of a rocket launch is it needs to be safe.
Right.
Like, frankly, if I'm a commercial rocket launch, I want it to be safe too, even though there's no government safety person there.
Right.
And if you're not shooting the rocket the right way, it starts veering. I want the government to blow the rocket up because I don't want to have fire rain on American towns, right? The Chinese do this differently. They just rain fire, right? But kind of my point is that, so of course we want safety, but safety should not be independent of mission.
Yeah.
Because what you end up with is you have these documents over there that are safety documents that, who would, let's be a little bit more safe. Yeah. So basically what happens is a safety person, how do they get better? It's by adding a little bit of safety, which means another document. So the way this grows is you have the safety apparatus becomes a source of documents. The engineering apparatus becomes a source of document. And so basically what you have is basically for a small mission, you have something between 70 to 90 documents that address specific things. 5 of them are important. Yeah. And frankly,
it would be 5 out of 70. That's the.
I would say perhaps it's 10, but for the vast majority of missions, small missions especially, 5 out of 70 is all there is. Yeah. I could, and see, the problem is not the document. Of course we can do document 7, 25, 70, whatever. But
especially today, have an AI do it.
But the problem is that for many of these documents, there's now people that I want to think about how this mission works. Yeah. To have deep thoughts, people who can't sleep because they're thinking deeply about how this works. They're now doing documents. Right. So I'm distracting them from the thing that actually reduces the risk. Yeah. So if I want safety, let them work. Right. Don't make them write documents. So judgment, on these processes is very hard, and beating back the documents. I mean, I did everything, especially for cheaper missions, right? Yeah. Because for a cheap mission, let's say it's a cheap, many of the missions, the most expensive mission was, 10 billion I did,
Does that change Webb?
Yeah. 5 to 8 missions were 1 to 5 billion. Yeah. And then, like you go down and kind of cheap, I call, or cheap, kind of lower cost, I call 100 million or below, 50 million, 20 million, small spacecraft that are enabled by new rockets.
Yeah.
So basically, if you do all this paperwork, so if for 10 billion, you write 70 documents, that's a small fraction.
Right.
For 20 million, 70 documents, it's now a substantial fraction of the
same
cost.
number of documents.
Yes, and so
that's
that's what we're doing. And of course, if they were sitting here, it's like, oh, you're exaggerating. There's really things that are not. Well, but I actually tried to kill these documents. And even as the head of science, because of this weird structure that came from the Challenger accident, I was unable, there's no
reported up above you, basically.
Yeah, exactly right. So that is the nature of bureaucracy in these decisions, is improvement in processes that were designed to solve a problem.
Yeah.
But if you want, dilute responsibility and dilute accountability.
Right.
And create process instead.
So you've mentioned a couple of times, like for instance, what we should have done is fired the person that made the decision to launch Challenger, and other, the 5%. Unpack that. Like it's very difficult to do that in a public organization. What are the incentives behind that, you think? Like, what are the incentives that are driving the creation of these rockets actually? Or the documents?
Well, so I think what happens, again, you're trying to solve problems.
Yeah.
And my point is, many of the problems come from bad behaviors of individuals.
Right.
Like, what we should be doing is hire the right individuals.
Right.
Not creating.
Well, what does the government writ large believe? Because that's not what we do, right? We create documents, we create these different organizational structures, we try to mitigate risk that way. But what do we believe, or what are we unwilling? Maybe it's the public. What are we unwilling to accept? Because we got to the moon in there was Mercury and then Apollo, but a relatively short amount of time. Yeah. And there were issues with that. Gus Grissom, right? So what were we willing to accept then that we're not willing to accept now? Has perception changed on something? I'm trying to understand what's causing that apparatus.
So there's 2-3 things that have changed, right? The first one is the Apollo program was a national priority program.
Right. It was kind of a defense related
program. It was very
program.
much about U.S. leadership, right? In many ways, what would be important to do is to compare Apollo with the Department of Defense type of procurement.
Yeah.
Which procurements, of course, in the Department of Defense have the same or worse issues than the one I just talked about. So but national priority helps. If you're not national priorities, everybody can meddle.
The urgencies.
Right? Yeah, you cannot cut through red tape with national priority. The second thing is, and I think people miss that, Apollo was full of A players. See, often process bureaucracy happens because you have C players and you need guardrails for C players. Yeah. Right. So the people are moving in that environment, but are basically focused. You have to watch them.
Right.
So because they're not good enough, and the civil servant system,
and the natural
unions or otherwise, you basically create a system in which basically you need to have C players survive. Yeah. And so basically that's the second process, and the third process is the cover your ass process. Yeah. It's a lot better. Nobody ever got fired for for getting SAP. Right. Or whatever.
IBM or proverbial whatever you want to fill. Right.
Never got fired for it. But if you take an absolutely amazing AI-driven new platform, you do, everything is great, but you have a little bit of a security hole somewhere, which, by the way, the others also have. Yeah. Right. But that turns into a story. You're dead. Right. You're the guy who caused the hole, right? Yeah. So for me, it's
But we just said, I want to expand on that, though, because we just said that you wouldn't get fired, or it's really hard to get fired. So when you say you're dead, what does that mean?
Well, there's actually things that are worse than being fired.
Okay.
And that is that you're in a job without any ability to do anything.
Yeah.
You're in the back row, you're blackballed, you're in the back of the bus, and you're not going
humiliated,
anywhere.
Everyone knows that you're
the guy who screwed up. Right. And for me, that kind of waiting for retirement,
Yeah.
like sitting in the back of the bus, that I think that's worse than getting fired.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, let's segue to the James Webb, because I think there's a lot more specific things that you're talking about there. So you had shared walking in, and we were like way behind on the project, but in the meetings, you would get positive or mostly positive reports, but that wasn't actually what was happening. I think that kind of relates to the point that you made about disagreement and being people willing to speak their mind.
So basically what tends to happen, right, and that's a failure mode that top managers have.
Yeah.
They're looking at it top down, but actually don't understand how the organization works. And of course I was prone to that. So basically what happens is you get a highly biased, like people are guessing, they want to make you happy.
Right.
Even though there's some garbage over there. It's like, let's not talk about the garbage.
Let's not talk about it. We'll handle that. He doesn't need to know.
Yeah, we're handling it. And then what happens, what tends to happen, it's like a cancer diagnosis.
Yeah.
What you actually want is to know it as fast as possible.
Yep.
Because you can mitigate it.
Yep.
But that's not the natural instinct, because remember what happened, the company, in this case Northrop Grumman, they have a fee, a cost plus fee contract.
Yeah.
So basically for every quarter, there's an assessment, and the more they can hide this, the fee starts accumulating. And then what happens?
Incentives.
The incentives are all screwed up. And frankly, the guy who's doing the fee is kind of friends with them.
Yeah.
Right? And so what happens is...
You mean on the government side?
On the government side. And so basically I'm actually, there's no conflict of interest. That's actually not what I'm alleging. So it's not the case that they benefit financially, but it's very hard to basically say you suck.
It's a human interaction problem.
Right.
Yeah.
And so basically what another way of talking about the same is what we said earlier, is culture, right?
Yeah.
If the culture is one that basically say we're blocking information from flowing.
Yeah.
And we're solving our problems ourselves. When we do this as little cost as possible, maximize the gains, and when we get to a problem, we're just going to blame the whole team and ask for more money.
Yeah, it's diffused.
It's this. If that is the culture, you cannot do a project like James Webb. So what needed to happen there is, frankly, it was a series of totally embarrassing mistakes. Mistakes you could, and you make mistakes, stupid mistakes, like in an acoustic test, which is when you test the system, will it launch?
Yeah.
Does it get broken sitting on top of a rocket that's loud?
Yeah.
So 1,000 screws fell off, bolts out of 10,000. Like, first of all, you need to find everyone. And then to figure out, you need to replace all of them.
Yeah.
It's like a bike going mountain biking without tightening the screws. You're going to not
end up in a tree.
Yeah. So it's just, so basically the question is, do you have bad people or a bad culture? That bad people is the people are there. Bad culture means the leaders are bad.
Okay.
Right. And so what we needed to do, we did not make progress for almost 2 years.
Yeah.
Just because we made so many mistakes at the lower level.
Yeah.
Because of this. And basically we did an independent analysis, put the hammer down, and it was really clear it was culture.
Yeah. So what's interesting is that the incentives created the culture.
Yeah.
And created the leaders. Right? But you come in and you didn't change the incentives, actually. You just were a strong leader and were able to say, these documents, proverbial or metaphorically, these documents matter, these ones don't. You're able to parse what matters from what doesn't.
Yeah.
And is there why aren't more people doing that?
So generally speaking, the strategy that I used is not a strategy that somebody often uses that is their whole career, because you rub people the wrong way. See, and you grow antibodies at the speed in which you go push against. So kind of if you want to do life,
and you saw that one guy tried that and got killed, so I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. So kind of if you want to be a lifetime employee in one of those units, and it actually doesn't matter if it's government or a big aerospace contractors, there's certain behaviors that lifetime employees don't do.
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, this happens in companies also.
Absolutely. Yeah. So basically, so what helped me coming in, there's a benefit coming in and looking at the world with new eyes.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, because sometimes you have the frog in the boiling water phenomenon. You're sitting there, it's gonna,
right.
like, we're making mistakes, but like I'm still there. It's like, okay, it's gonna get better. It's like, I don't know. And you come in from the top, it's like, holy shit, like we're gonna start boiling this guy.
Yeah.
Like, it's not working.
Right.
We're killing the patient. And so basically that's the benefit of being a new. So it's not because I'm special. It's just I was the new guy, but what I managed to do is, I mean, frankly, I felt it needed to get fixed ASAP. By the way, I lost a lot of friendships over that. Like, there were times, like, I walked into labs, like, people turned away. Like, I'm the guy who's the bad news spreader.
Yeah, you're
like,
the agitator.
No, we're cutting out the cancer.
Yeah.
To be successful with this mission. Only later, years later, people actually came to me. It's like, thanks so much for doing that. It took me a while to notice what you did. We wouldn't have been successful. Right? And it is possible to do this. Roman Space Telescope is just getting ready to be done. It was assembled last week. It's a telescope that's multi-billion, and it's within cost and on schedule. It's actually way ahead of schedule, and it's within cost. I rebooted it 6 months into my tenure at NASA because they had grown $500 million in 6 months, and I'm like, we're not doing this. We're not going down the path we did with James Webb. Like, Roman needs to be a success.
So 6 months in, you identify that the project is $500 million over budget.
Yeah.
How does that happen so quickly?
Well, basically what happens, like, it's NASA is about perfection.
Yeah.
It's about doing the best. It's like, and I basically
perfection's such a great thing.
Yeah.
A great topic to discuss.
Yes, and I basically said, like, no, we have to be programmatically successful.
Yeah.
Within schedule, within cost.
Yeah.
And I rebooted it, and I cut out every extraneous thing that I could have, cut $500 million down. And for me, the question...
Wait, go ahead, you finish. Yeah.
So the $500 million that grew, I cut out.
Yeah.
And what I did, together with an independent look, is basically, for me, the biggest question was, how do I convince the team that you cannot grow? So actually what I did, like, sometimes you can use bureaucracy in your favor.
Okay.
So I went to Congress and basically said, hey, it would really help me if you put it into law that it cannot increase. So
Constraints.
I actually asked for that. And the reason I did it is not because I wanted to hurt my team, but I felt it was so important. Like, it cannot be Thomas's voice against the rest.
Well, and if the option is, we want to make sure that the mission is successful, and that means there's no countervailing pressure, right?
Yep.
You can take longer. You can take longer to make decisions. Yep. Time expands work expands to fill the time allowed, right? Same with budgets.
Exactly right. So by setting the constraints clearly and getting stakeholder alignment on the Hill, what basically happened is...
So you actually wrote it into law?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I asked for the law. And they did. I basically said it would really help me. I'm trying to do what you're telling me.
Yeah.
What you can do to help me is put it into law.
Well, that's interesting.
That my plan is the one that... And basically, if we go over, you will cancel it, because that's what I want. And so,
why not do you think that is a one-off good idea, or is that, like, more broadly applicable?
I think some of these tools are more broadly applicable. You have to be careful to do it the right time and with the right knowledge, because what you don't want to do is create an environment in which you're perfect in cost and schedule, but you suck at the science, you suck at the engineering.
Right.
So you need to evolve the system. So I don't think one size fits all. Every once in a while, you say, I'm just going to make it up. We're going to build the best kind of quantum sensor of space to do gravitational waves for the first time ever, or the best observatory of, the Earth. We're going to do that with novel ways nobody has ever done.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a priority. And from now, we already know it may cost a little bit more.
Yeah.
But what we're going to do is put the fences there. We make a decision at a certain point whether or not we can afford it. Okay. But let's go, right?
Yeah.
So not everyone is the same. What's really important, though, is that we don't kind of destroy the neighborhood.
Right.
Right. Kind of like, you have such a growth and of programs that every mission next to you dies because you're like suck off the oxygen from everybody else. The vast majority of missions are not that way.
Yeah.
And I'm a big, by the way, I'm a big fan of technology demonstrations. And frankly, the helicopter on Mars is one of them.
Yeah.
The chronograph on Roman is another one, where I basically created spaces where basically throw all rules away. It needs to work, it needs to be safe for the mission it hangs off.
Right.
But for me, the question is, can we fly on Mars?
Right.
Just try.
That simple.
And I need to protect you from bureaucracy. So my only job is to protect you from bureaucracy. The way I do that is how we report. The way I do it is by the boundaries conditions I set. But go. So for me, you can do that. But in many other cases, I agree with you. Kind of actually anchoring what you're going to do and creating real accountability and real deterministic behaviors. Like, hey, if you're a factor of 2 over, we're just not. Of course, there's some processes in the Congress that are designed for that. Like if you're over the breach notifications, if you're over, that's why that was designed. It just in many cases the political forces are so conflicted that at the end it just doesn't work anymore.
I want to come back to that leadership element, but there was something you said in there that reminded me of another conversation you and I had where you talked about if you want to create transformational change within an organization, I think and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but my takeaway was your recommended model was start a new organization, give that resources, and then basically defund, or in your words, suck the oxygen out of the room for the other one. Is that fair? Like, how do you think about that?
Yeah. So I think there's like 3 different ways of kind of culture change.
Yeah.
The first one is incremental, steady culture change, and the government environment that I saw, especially in that environment that you already described with the different reporting chains, I just didn't feel. There was always a room where rules were restored to the old state.
Okay.
Like you could not actually move the ball.
Yep.
Which is kind of actually sad. That was actually a lesson that really made me sad. So I'm like, that is not useful. Actually, many of my people said, no, you're wrong. You made a lot of progress. I'm like, well, we didn't achieve the goal. So,
okay.
But the second one is wipe it all out and build anew.
Okay.
Kind of the Jack Welch model.
Yeah.
Like kind of in the government. Trump is trying to do that in some cases now. So it's kind of we'll see how successful that is. I did not have that power.
Okay.
The third model is the one that you just mentioned. Is kind of what you do is like you have the old world over here with its challenges. You operate it. Next to it, you build the new world with totally different rules, highly targeted. You fence it off from the culture. It's kind of.
Would you say that those two have the same mission?
They may have the same mission.
Okay.
But there's something that is distinguishing.
Yeah.
For example, the new organization may be together with commercial partnerships, not primarily on the inside. So you change something about it. Or we're only doing these missions in 2 years. All the others take 8 years. We're going to do something really different. Like you need to create a different motto, but kind of make it a group that is kind of fights for its survival and fights for its success under new rules and protect it from the toxic stuff in the other one.
Yeah.
If you can create success there, what you can do is start shuffling success kind of money.
Yeah, feed it more.
Now, what you have to make sure is that you don't put the cancer back in.
Yeah. How do you avoid that?
Well, so you have to police the boundaries. Like you have to make sure that the way people are really clear. Like a guy who did that in the Department of Defense for an organization, he basically said, I'm talking to every single person we hire because I want to make sure that I'm not bringing the poison back in.
Yeah.
So basically you do it this way and kind of over time you suck out the oxygen out of the old one until it becomes irrelevant. Then you can get rid of it, right? But so you create new kind of reset, so to say, the environment. It also will go on a trajectory that kind of it will become worse again. So again, it becomes worse not because people are bad. It's just the environment is I'm trying to improve in an environment where mistakes and people happen.
Yeah, mistakes happen, and like we said, there's an incentive to not have it happen again. So we create the rule, and it's just a natural thing. And it's I I don't know, but my perception is that kind of rebirth, the trimming of the rule book, to your point, like the safety team on an unmanned, relatively inexpensive mission just like doesn't make sense.
Yep.
But we're not affording necessarily the leaders to have judgment. It's, that's just kind of the nature of it. So you have to redo this on an ongoing basis and start fresh, right?
Exactly right. So kind of to keep a culture, kind of if you want an entrepreneurial culture, a success culture requires, it's not a one and done. You have to keep going at it. Part of the way I handled the documentation piece is I just basically said, okay, if you want a new piece of documentation or new piece of policy, only if you put 2 on the table that we're cutting.
Yeah. And what people accepted that? Or they just said, forget it, we don't need to do that.
No, that's basically, I slowed down the bleed.
Yeah.
What happened the moment I stepped out, there was there's
a backlog.
Yeah, it was a backlog, and kind of sadly, I mean, so you hold it with your own body.
Yeah.
Right. But for me, I mean, this is what, the ideas around DOGE.
Yeah.
Like at the beginning, what happened later, right, is different. Yeah. But kind of to actually say, let's go in and actually look how we can take some of these burdens out.
Yeah.
The issue is it's actually really hard to do that.
Yeah.
So you need people who understand it in detail, but are not part of the poisonous ecosystem.
So one, I mean, I personally know some of the people who are involved with DOGE, and I think they're well-intentioned, hardworking, brilliant Americans who care about the country.
Of course.
And I haven't met every single one of them, but the ones that I have met are certainly that. I do think that there was also a perception that, like you said, the people working in the public sector are morons, they're lazy, right? Which is overwhelmingly not true.
It's not true.
It's the incentives. And so I just think that that's such an interesting dynamic, because if you ask any person off of the street, do you believe there's waste in government? They'll say yes. And even people working in government will say that, probably more so.
I just told you, the document stack is useless. Yeah.
Yeah. So it is this inevitable challenge. And I think one of the central themes there is risk. And I know this is something you've talked a lot about. In fact, I remember I went to a talk that you gave one time, and you mentioned something about how there was a 10%, and this is again from my memory, so the numbers may be totally off here, but a 10% chance that like space junk would intersect with the spacecraft and like cause it to be ruined. Like, and so there's kind of like the elements of uncertainty in risk. And how do you think about what risk is actually?
Well, so I mean, in many ways, the way I think about, in a space mission, like there's a certain success you want, that depending on what that success is, it's either data that comes down or a successful landing on the surface of Mars or an interception. The first time we moved a celestial object, by impact, so you need to hit it.
A binary outcome.
Yeah,
we
so
did this thing.
You have some outcome. And so what you then do is basically say, what are the things that could stop us from that?
Yeah. You invert it.
Yeah, so basically, and what are the worries that you have? And so you start formulating risk. I think it's a really healthy thing to do. By the way, also in all narratives, but also in the government narratives, just line them up.
Yeah.
Like there's risks that have to do technical risks, but there's policy risks. Like kind of all of a sudden we have rules that relate to labor. Like all of a sudden we can no longer work hard and so forth. And then you have all these kind of risks. So what you do is I'm a strong believer in looking at these risks really clearly, prioritizing them and managing them. So some of them you
write them down, prioritize them,
and manage
stack, rank them, and manage
so
them.
You're in charge of this risk. Your job is to make sure that this risk goes away. How much money do you need? That technical risk, often not. And then in some cases, there's risks that are just there. Right. So
they're inherent. You can't change it.
If you land on Mars, basically the way we do that, engineering-wise, we assign 5% technical risk. We call it the kill budget. So with 5% likelihood, something bad happens. So what we're now trying to do is make sure that all uncertainties that we cannot control fit in these 5%. Like the wind on Mars, right? Okay, so what are the winds? Like what's the likelihood of high wind? Okay, so there's a percentage.
Probability of it,
So we actually talk about bad things. And so kind of in every mission, if you came to me and said, I'm working on a project, I'm like, Slide 1 is, who are you? How updates? How's it going? Slide 2 is, what are your top 3 worries?
Yeah.
And I want to talk about this.
Yeah.
So it's the exact opposite to what we just said with the James Webb,
Right.
where you hide the worries.
Yeah.
I want the worries to be at the top.
But you as a leader created that structure and you set the expectation that was on slide 2.
So it's actually a really deeply in-ground kind of structure within NASA, but it disappeared because of some of the, let's make ourselves feel good. I'm like, no. And frankly, I want to, like what I did also, I was so passionate about this. I brought the risks to the Congress. Like, I remember the first press conference I gave, like the PR guy next to me barely knows me. It's like, are you worried about X, Y, Z? It's like, darn well I'm worried. Like, you should be worried. This is really hard.
It'd be crazy to not be.
And I basically added a sentence. It's like, but I think we can actually be successful because of the people I've met and so forth. And I said, never say that again. You're going to be quoted that you're worried. It's like, but I'm worried. I'm going to say that. And I want to.
PR was telling you that.
Yeah, PR tells. Don't talk about worries.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I am worried.
Yeah.
And so what I did is kind of build a strategy. If a congressman asked me, how is it going with James Webb? It's like, thanks for the question. We're making a lot of progress. Here are the top 3 worries.
Yeah.
Do you want to know more? I'll send a specialist over.
Yeah.
I was like, tell me more about this. Should I? I was like, number 1 and 2, I think, are under control. Are going. 3, I'm not sure yet. But I can give you an update once I know.
Yeah. So you know what's fascinating? Your career, you were at NASA for how long?
6.5 years.
6.5 years?
Yeah.
Do you know people who have the same mindset and view of the world that are career people there? Like, are they willing to rock the boat the same way that you are? Or is that...
Generally speaking, that is not the characteristics of a career person. It's just I'm not even sure whether that's good or bad, right? You need other people who are different, but I think a person, that's why I'm such a fan of, by the way, I think the way we should handle a lot more of these problems is by exchanging hostages. An entrepreneur should go work for government for a few years. I understand you're going to make money.
Yeah,
but sacrifice that for your nation.
Right.
And the reverse should also happen. A government person should go spend time in a startup.
Yeah.
And actually understand what's going on there.
Totally. Yeah.
And by doing that, we actually understand each language, and then all of a sudden we can solve problems.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what happens, and kind of people who are lifers can do that.
Yeah.
But kind of in my case, what I did, it really required some pivots, right?
Yeah.
So being kind of the outside view, kind of almost the view of an immigrant, is what really helped me in many ways solve some of these issues.
So let's segue to kind of the procurement and the commercial partnerships that you struck, because those I think were really key. You talked about how 80% of the budget was going to external partnerships. What are the lessons, just high level, what are the lessons you learned there from your time?
So basically, the lessons I learned is that the standard FAR procurement is really slow. And kind of inhibits a lot of programmatic innovation. So kind of in a standard procurement, especially of a lot of, and again, it's because the incentives are all wrong.
Can you give an example there, like something comes to mind specifically?
Yeah, just, like you basically say, let's go to the moon as soon as we can.
Okay.
And we need this piece of hardware. In the Apollo program, people literally wrote contracts within weeks. Okay.
Yeah, there's like stories of bags of cash being handed.
Exactly right. And I'm sure there's room that bad things can happen with this.
Yeah.
But we lost that ability, right?
Yeah.
So what happens to us now is when we, it's all urgent.
Can I pause you there? Is that better? The kind of the Apollo way?
I think we need more of that. Again. Yeah. We should make more of that mistake that we don't want.
Yeah.
But kind of the opportunity cost of the system today is basically lack of leadership.
So I don't want to lose point on the commercial partnerships, but trace that back, right? Do you have a hypothesis of what actually caused us to move away from that over time? I mean, there's issues that happened and rules getting created, but what caused that? Was it the public who was not comfortable with government waste or government screwing up?
Exactly. It's mistakes that happened.
Yeah.
Sometimes because of bad people.
But in companies, mistakes happen and they can move on.
Yeah, but what happens if a mistake happens in governance? In the science program, mistake happens. The next day, I'm on the Hill.
Right.
I'm being yelled at. It's uncomfortable.
Right.
It's really uncomfortable. It's like, what the hell? Incompetent leader.
Totally.
Like,
yeah.
And so basically, and then what happens is the legal process. There are laws that all of a sudden, okay, so this is the information that needs to be given there. So all of a sudden, you were able to just procure. Now you need this analysis that needs to be independently assessed. It's intended to solve for a problem that was there. But what you do is you basically add load on top of load.
Yeah.
What you then do is all of a sudden you build a whole organization that does nothing else than that process.
Yeah, it's self-perpetuating.
And the morning that the person comes in and then basically says, how do I do a better job? I could do even more accurate procurement if there's another document. Right. And so I mean, it's that process. It's people trying to do a good job in a bad system.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what happens.
Well, and then compare that, back to the point of commercial partnerships. Tell me if you disagree, but it doesn't seem like there's a world where NASA could have blown up as many starships as SpaceX has.
Exactly. I mean, and for me, the way I think about this is like, okay, we found a new way of actually experimenting by empowering and enabling companies to do that.
Right.
And the best example, the most forward-leaning one I did on commercial partnerships is the commercial Lunar Payload Services. So the issue is as follows. The US wanted to go to the moon. China is on the way to the moon, and we had nothing going on in the moon at the end of the Obama administration.
Yeah.
Trump came in, and in its first administration, we need to go to the moon, especially Pence. Trump wants to go to Mars too. It's like, what are we doing? Okay, so I basically figured out to do a lander on the moon, how expensive is it? I go to the internal NASA people.
Yeah.
$1 to $2 billion.
For a lander.
For a lander. Yeah. On Mars, it's $3 billion, whatever.
Okay.
Moon is $1 to $2 billion. Okay. Can't afford it. I cannot get $1 to $2 billion. And I was here in Michigan, right? And I knew about the Google Lunar X Prize, in which companies were trying to get to the moon. I was like,
so you knew their budgets.
Yeah, so I knew there's budgets and there are people who worked on this problem.
Yeah.
And I went to them and said, how close are you to that? And of course, they were wrong.
Sure.
They said, we're really close. They were wrong. They were years away. They didn't even understand the problem. But what I did is I basically said, let's build a new system. What I'm going to do is I'm going to buy services from you. So instead of me controlling your hardware, I own the hardware as the agency. I'm just buying services from you. Delivery services to the moon.
Yeah.
And I want to do so for 10% of the cost. What I then did, so I built that program. 13 companies said, I want to play in that game.
Yeah.
What I then did, I went to Congress and said, only every second one will work. So 50% failure.
Yeah. You wrote that in. Set the expectations.
I set the expectations in every stage.
Yeah.
It's 50% failure. And what that allowed me to do is I did it without paperwork. So if I said 80% likelihood,
right, you had to prove
now there's somebody, a safety person or a mission assurance person, like prove to me that it's 80%. Like show me how you choose your parts, how you do integrate. And so I said 50% likely. It's like, it's like tossing a coin.
Yeah.
And so I did and managed to sell the program that way, basically without overhead. Now, I think
it's overall cheaper, but there's going to be some failures along the way.
Absolutely, 50% failure.
Yeah.
And it's in the interest of the United States because there's no other way of getting to the moon fast.
Too. Right.
Which is, by the way, why we're there.
Right.
The program worked.
Yeah.
But I might have, in retrospect, I might fix it a little bit. I think there's some mistakes that I made building it. But this is one of those new groups.
Yeah.
I kind of built an entirely new, and frankly, I took it out of the science process and systems.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want the antibodies to come in and kill it. Because that's what science, like this is a new world. We hate it. So let's just emphasize all the bad.
Yeah.
I want somebody who says, I want to build a career in making this success. And I was not playing before, I'm playing now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fascinating. And I think the idea that the commercial, were there other examples? Because I know you did a lot of work with SpaceX too, yeah?
Yeah, so what we did is of course, instead of, we started to use launches, and kind of the one thing that was really important to me is that we used new launch vehicles. I don't know whether you're aware of something like 4 weeks ago, 2 Mars missions were launched with the second New Glenn rocket.
I did see that, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So those are 2 Mars missions that were developed for 10% of the cost of a Mars mission.
Yeah.
And they were on an engineering flight of New Glenn. So we took a lot of risks putting it on there. By the way,
Yeah.
I did not do that. The team did it that came after me. Because the only way we got to 10% is a clear, deep collaboration. This is UC Berkeley with Rocket Lab, which is a New Zealand-based startup, Peter Beck and company, with a novel type of spacecraft as a public-private partnership. It got launched at a fraction of the cost, and it's on its way to Mars.
Yeah.
Right? So that kind of stuff can happen, and it requires innovation on launch.
Yeah, right. Writing that into the
We take
prospectus,
risks on launch.
Yeah.
And so basically what happens, the whole system of launch was built when there were very few launchers.
Yeah.
And the government was really important to keep the quality high.
Yeah.
The people that get most hurt if a SpaceX Falcon 9 blows up is SpaceX.
Yeah.
So frankly, more so than any weight we could put on them.
Yeah, for sure. Right. And they have the incentive, therefore, to make sure that it's as bulletproof as possible.
Yeah, and then, the other thing I was really, SpaceX reused boosters, right? That's one of the reasons the cost has come down. And the government said, we're not going to use previously used boosters. And so basically...
Interesting. Because it was perceived as riskier.
It's less safe, yeah. And I'm like... So I actually had this discussion with Elon Musk, right? Kind of in the office, basically say, hey, if you went to space, how many times would you like the booster to be used for you to sit on? What's the safest?
Yeah.
He said 2 to 3. I said, that's what I want.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, for me, so
right, which cuts your cost by half or
yes.
3.
And so all of a sudden we could do launcher with previously used boosters.
Right.
Everybody got confident, and frankly, it's absolutely.
But wait, how did you get everyone confident? How did you actually get it flipped from we don't want to use?
No, frankly, I started communicating it in public.
Okay.
Like I actually said, I really feel that's important, and then put, pressure on our procurement organization. That's like, look, we need to ride the wave of commercial. If we kind of beat the wave back, we put a lot of effort. Like it's a success story in the United States.
Totally.
And we by not using it, we're shortchanging the opportunity we get from it.
Well, and not only I absolutely, and the idea that we can actually be perfect and that there is zero risk to a launch, doesn't exist.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's not even a real scenario that we're trying to plan for, and it just inflates costs and stuff.
And as we do this recording right now, this year SpaceX has launched 156 rockets, right? Talking about an understanding of risk. 0 failures out of 156.
For Falcon 9,
that has to count. For Falcon 9.
Yeah.
That has to count. So I throw away the process and say, 1 out of 156, good enough.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Talk a little bit about, one of the things you talk a lot about is how every project has to have at least one miracle. Mm-hmm. What do you mean by that?
Well, so I think, being at the space agency, what NASA should be doing is not only do new missions, but kind of, if you want, put new tools in the toolbox of what's possible.
Yeah.
And so for me, the way I think about that is a miracle. So we do something that's new that nobody has ever done. We don't know yet how it's doing.
Like James Webb unfolding, 350.
That was 11 miracles. James Webb's too many miracles, probably. That's why the cost was so out of bounds.
Okay.
But
one and no more.
I'm 1 to 3 is good.
Okay.
Not more.
Okay.
Kind of 1 to 3, actually, you can show.
This is true in startups too, by the way.
Yeah. But what you can show with miracles, 1 to 3 don't affect the cost, really. If you have good leadership, 1 to 3, if you're smart, of course, don't use miracles where the laws of nature need to change. But kind of things that are like, wow, this is really hard, we haven't done it, they don't matter. Good leaders can take those miracles out and just solve the problems there. So 1 to 3 is good. if you'd have too many, the problem is they start interacting with each
they
other.
conflict. Yeah.
And it's like, holy, like.
So in your definition, is a miracle then like something uncertain that we haven't proven in the real
a
world
new
yet?
technology, a new approach that
Right.
fundamentally changes things, but we haven't proven as of yet, and has ambiguity to it.
Yeah. That's cool. I like that. And being able to limit them is key. So looking back on your 6.5 years at NASA, are there, like, what stands out to you? You've talked a lot about the successes. What stands out to you as like you wish you could do this over, or you wish you had known this, or maybe you went in believing X and now you believe Y? You can take that question wherever you want.
So first of all, I just really believe in the value of people that work in government. They're good people. We should honor them. We should treat them as great citizens who serve this country. I think we should have the question. We should question the structures we're in and have the courage. Some of the DOGE spirit, I'm very much on board with. But you need to have people who go and do that, and people who understand the organizations in depth. They need to be part, not people who are on the inside of organization for other incentives, but really people who have actually said, here are the things that don't work, right?
Yeah. And how do you get that experience?
Well, it needs to be somebody like me or equivalent, who has worked in the organization, actually knows. Actually, some of the things DOGE did in NASA was perfectly correct. There were some offices, I never figured out what they did. I worked there for 6 years. Like, what do you actually do? It's like, so we cancel it. Nobody will ever notice that they're done. Like, there's no purpose to it. So for me, that is important. And questioning is important. Kind of just saying everything is great is not. And then the third one is actually come up with deliberate strategies. Kind of what I learned, like this kind of change slowly the system is just not a very good strategy in many ways. You really need kind of priority setting and actually kind of sandbox type of experimentation with new processes and systems and be really rigorous, kind of like an entrepreneur. Look at what you're learning and scale the learnings.
One thing that I think is interesting there is that in my experience, a lot of progress, it might from the outside look like there's a step change or a leap, but there's a ton of incremental progress there. But what's interesting about what you said is, in my mind, so incremental progress is real, but you're talking about kind of like discontinuous progress. But it's, I guess incremental progress, would you summarize it this way? Incremental progress is the way, and it works when there is a healthy culture, and it doesn't when there isn't.
Exactly right. And incremental progress is always important, right? Kind of, we should always get better this year than last year. Like, no matter whether you're a leap guy or a person, like, just get better. The environment needs to be, let's get better. Let's use tools better. Let's bring new things in. Let's experiment and move forward. But every once in a while, if we're ready for a leap, let's actually leap together. And just actually give it a shot to kind of shed some weight, and kind of over bureaucracy and just make the world better. Kind of reset some of the stuff that is there, not because they're bad people, because the system evolved in a way that is no longer really helping the taxpayer.
It's not serving them anymore. Final question, and then I'll let you go. How real is all this, like, AI data center in space, manufacturing in space? When should we look forward to that?
Oh, it's really real. It's coming. I think in 10 years, this question will sound like, I wonder why you asked that question. Basically what happened is 2 or 3 different motivators. The first one is there's a number of, because of high bandwidth communication in space and because of quick decision making, both in the defense side, but also, let's say, natural hazards. What you want is you put computing into space. Kind of in a way that does that. Golden Dome is a really great example. If you see an attack for a rocket, you have minutes until you need to know how you're going to take this out. You don't have time to kind of fiddle around going up and down. It needs to happen, a lot of it autonomously. The other thing has to do with just, the strain on resources on Earth. As long as we don't have fusion down here or kind of big nuclear,
use the one in the sky.
Data centers are basically a drain on environmental and on energy. Compute is really going up. So the space is a really good place to think about doing that.
A rocket launch, like, are the costs at a level where that's yet like profitable?
We're getting there,
Yeah.
right? So kind of we're probably something at $1,000 per kilogram,
Yeah.
and we're probably getting another
500.
5x or 10x out of that. And
Oh, you think it'll go down to 100?
yeah, we're getting there. Yeah, because of reuse and so forth. So and Starship. I think what we have is we have a launch every 3 days now.
Yeah.
I think in less than 10 years, we're going to have a launch each day, working on multiple companies, and
Yeah.
we're going to have even multiple launches per day. And so basically, once you have that, right, it's more like standing at the airport in Detroit and basically saying, do I want to go to Paris today or Frankfurt or Tokyo, right? It's like, so it's not like a miracle. It's like buy a ticket, jump on it, right?
Yeah.
So now it's just, well, it costs some money, but of course we can do it.
Yeah.
So that is really changing, right? It used to be, it's like, oh, look, everything gets ready for this one rocket that happens once per month or once every quarter, and fingers crossed, it's like, oh, just take a damn plane.
There'll be another one. Yeah. That's great. Thank you so much for jojoining. This was awesome. I learned a lot just
Appreciate
every time I talk to you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Dr. Z.
Thanks.